Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining. Okay, so we're here to talk about UV resin, and we're here to make some really fun jewelry. We're making tropical earrings, necklaces. I'm going to show you them in a little bit. But first, I want to tell you about UV resin. If you've never used it before, here it is. It's a little bottle of magic, and it goes from a liquid into a hardened plastic within just a few minutes. As soon as you expose this to UV light. So that UV light can come from a lamp, which I'll show you, or from sunlight. And so you can use it in molds, you can use it in bezels, and it really is has a lot of different applications in jewelry making. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to use it in a mold. I'm going to show you how to use it in a bezel, and then I'm going to show you a special, a little more advanced freestyle technique where you can make literally any shape that your imagination can dream up. So if you have joined us before, we're in a new studio, so this is looking a little different. Let's switch to the top-down camera and show you the things that we're going to be making today. Okay, so we have some tropical earrings. Here we have a leaf, and the theme of this class is how to use beads with UV resin. And I wanted to call this class how to fake like you're a great beader using UV resin, because this little magic in a bottle makes it seem like you are an expert beader. Like this piece, even this piece here, very easy to make, but with that little accent of beads on the front, we'll show you how to do that. All right, so let's clear this up. Let me tell you what I have here in my workspace. So I have a desk. On top of the desk is this silicone mat that has glitter all over it. Sorry about that. And I have another silicone mat here. This is what it looks like in the stores. All the product that we're going to be using today is available at Michael's, and it's all in this blue package that says UV Resin Craft. So let me open this up. This silicone mat really helps you to keep your workspace clean. Like it does attract glitter, but you don't want to do this on top of directly on top of your desk or dining room table. Use something that's protective like this. And the reason it's silicone is because UV resin does not stick to it once it's cured. Okay, so the next thing I have here, this is a lamp. So also sold at Michael's. This is what it looks like. When I hit the button on the top, it turns on. So this is a 9-watt UV lamp, and it's a bridge style. So you would place this directly over whatever you're curing, and it runs for 1 minute. When I turn it off, I can toggle it on and off, or if I leave it on, it has a timer for 1 minute. I of course have my bottle of resin. So I have my lamp, my resin. I have some wood sticks for mixing and for placing things. I also have some silicone bowls. These are also for mixing. Like I said, all of this is available at Michael's. So here's the silicone bowls. And then I have a series of molds and glitter. Can't have too much glitter, I say. We're going to use some green glitter. And then I also have some tints. So I'm going to be making a green color out of these colors. Okay. So I think that is enough talking to get started here. The first project we're going to do is this earring here. And it is a shape that has a hole. This is the shape that comes out of the mold. You can see it has a hole on either end. All right. And that comes from this mold here. So you can see all of these shapes. There's 8 different shapes here. They each have a hole on either side. That is great for making necklaces, like a bar type necklace, or it is also great for making a bracelet because it goes side to side. But another additional way to use these is as an earring. And so you use the top hole to hang your jump ring and your ear wire, and the bottom hole, a little bead dangle. So you can choose whichever shape you want. We're going with the tropical leaf. And so as we get started, just a few notes of caution. You want to make sure you aren't working near an open window where there's sunlight pouring in, because that might harden the resin before you want it to. And if you have sensitive skin, if you have a sensitivity to resin, wear some gloves. All right, so I take the bottle of resin and I go, actually, I'm gonna use another bottle. And I go straight in to the silicone cup. Actually, I'm gonna do 2 different cups because I wanna create 2 different tones of green. And I'm just kind of eyeballing how much I need. I'm gonna use this for 2 different earrings. So I'm pouring a little more than what will just go in this first mold. Okay, then I get my tints. So we have 6 different colors of tints. These are specially formulated to work with UV resin. You can use other things to tint, you know, for example, a tiny little bit of acrylic paint will tint resin, but this is really the best way. This is a specialized product for that. All right, so I'm going in with yellow in both. And these are very concentrated. You want to give them a shake before you use them. Also, if you're opening the package for the first time, you do need to cut off the tip of it so it'll start flowing. Now these, as I said, are very concentrated, especially this blue. So use with caution. And maybe I'll add just a pinch more. Okay. And then I'm going to add some glitter. So I have this kind of iridescent glitter. I'm going to put that in one. And how much glitter you want to use is really up to you. If you want the glitter particles to be very close together, add a lot of it. If you want them to be a little more dispersed, just add a little sprinkling. Then I'm going to add some green glitter to this one. Okay, let's stir it up, see what we get. So I do want to encourage you to use the chat function. We have Jennifer, she is in our main office and she's ready to help answer any questions. I try to pay attention to the chat. If I see a good question pop up, I will answer it live for you. But please use that. We'd love to hear from you guys. All right, so that's color 1. Here's color 2. You do want to make sure that it is completely mixed. Also, just be careful as you're mixing. You don't really want to like whip a lot of air into it because that can create air bubbles. If you've used other resins, you'll find that this resin does not create a lot of bubbles. Like you can see that there, I mean, I can see a few bubbles in there from, you know, just the mixing action. Those are the 2 colors we're working with. You do want to keep a baby wipe, a paper towel, something on the side, and I use that to just wipe off my stick as I go, try to keep my workspace as clean as possible. Okay. All right, so here is our mold. This is a high quality silicone mold. You can tell it's high quality because of how clear it is. And the clarity of your silicone molds really comes into play with UV resin because this will not cure, it will not harden unless unless the light gets to it. So if the light can't get underneath it, if you're using an opaque mold, it's not going to work at all, or not, at least not well for you. All right, so let's pour. I'm going to go in with the light color. So here's the shape that we're doing. And because this is a silicone cup, I can really squeeze it and make more of a precision tip. So I am kind of randomly placing little globs of this. And don't worry about, you know, being so precise and so neat. A little bit of that resin is going to get on top of the mold, and that's okay. It wants to go inside. All right, let's go in with our darker color, just filling in the rest. And also keep in mind, as you're working with this mold, that what you see on the top of the mold is actually not going to be the top of your final piece. The top of your piece is at the bottom. All right, just cleaning up a little bit here. And now I want to go in with the pointy end of my stick here. And I basically just want to make sure that the resin flowed to all the tips of these leaves. So I kind of poke at it. You can also kind of like squeeze it and make sure that that is in place and that the resin goes all the way around these end pieces. The other thing you can do is kind of do this and then pick it up and look underneath. So I'm looking for any areas that maybe have an air bubble where the resin didn't flow there yet. And this one looks good. So before I cure this, I'm going to take my extra resin, I'm saving this and putting it to the side where the light won't reach. I'm going to put a little light thing on top of it to make sure before I turn on my lamp. Okay. And we're ready to go. We bring the lamp in and hit the button. I'm going to leave that off to the side. And let's talk about curing times. So this resin cures very fast. If you are using just clear resin without tints in it, it's going to cure even faster, probably 2 to 3 minutes. Because I've added tints and glitter, it does kind of block the light. And so you want to cure it a little bit longer. The darker you go, the thinner your layers should be, and the longer your cure time will be. So I'm going to let this go probably for 3, 4, maybe even 5 minutes. Now, like I said, this is a 1-minute timer. So I'll have to keep restarting it after it runs. So let me show you the next step. So here's our example earring. So the next step after this comes out of the mold will be to hang. Okay, so that went for a minute. Let me turn it back on. Will be to hang a bead down here. So let me show you how to do this. So this is a little bit of jewelry making 101 here. And you want to use, Michaels carries something like this, these findings. So inside here, you've got head pins, eye pins. It's a nice mixture of everything that you need. The ear wires are in there, jump rings. And this is called a head pin. It looks like a nail, but like really, really thin. And this is how you create any type of dangly thing in jewelry making. So you can string on 1 bead or 10 beads or however many beads that you want, stack them up on there. And then you're going to use some tools. Let me show you my tools here. So I have this little snipper guy. And this, which is a specialized jewelry making tool called round nose pliers. And see how, you kind of see how the ends are conical? That helps you make a loop at the top. We want to turn this straight piece of wire there into having a little loop. And so here's how you do it. So you string on whatever you want, however many beads you want. And then you turn this to 90 degrees so that it looks like that. Now we want to trim it. So you want to trim it about, it's about this far, which is, I would say, about 3/8 of an inch. Does that make sense too? Yeah, a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch. And I just snipped that right off. Okay. Now I'm going to take what's left, situate my pliers perpendicular to the wire, and hold on to it and twist the wire back, roll the wire back onto itself like this. When it gets too hard, when my wrist starts hurting, I reset the pliers back in that same groove and keep going in the same direction. And that's how you create, and then you can kind of fiddle with it to make it straight, but that's how you create a loop at the top. Now with that one skill, you can make a myriad of different jewelry making projects. This is called a simple loop. There are other loops that you can make, but this is the easiest one. And so now that this thing has a loop on top, I can connect it to something. And that's exactly what we want. All right, so let me get some stuff here. So we have our bead dangle. We're going to need an ear wire. We're going to need a jump ring for the top and a jump ring for the bottom. So let me get a jump ring for the top. Okay, so this has gone in there for several minutes. What you can also do is turn it over. That way you can just make sure that UV light is hitting all the little nooks and crannies. And while that's going, I want to show you a piece that we made a little while ago, actually in the fall. And it uses the same mold, but we use fall colors. This is a bracelet, used fall colors. And the difference here is we used what's called soft resin. See how this is like a gummy bear? See how nice and bendy that is? This is also from UV Resin Craft, but it is the soft type resin. 99% of the time, you're going to use the hard type resin. So you can see right here in our bottle, it says hard type. But there is a soft type version that cures to this gummy bear texture. So I just wanted to show you that that exists. But what we're using today is hard resin. All right, so this is just about ready to demold. I can feel it's a little warm. You'll feel it's warm when you pick it up. That's because it does heat up slightly as you are curing it. So you want to make sure that it is kind of cooled down before you pop it out of the mold, especially a shape like this, because it can bend when it's still warm. All right, so then here's the magic. You just pop it right out. And this is what you're left with. I intentionally left this little doodad thing on there so you can see, you can have a little bit of flash sometimes when it comes out of the mold, but it's not a big deal. I just ripped it off. I think that was actually a hair of mine that got stuck in the resin. But this is what you're left with. And so this side that I'm holding to the camera is the side that was down in the mold. And this is the side that was up in the mold. You can see there's a little bit of flash here. I can get in there with my nails, or I can go in there with a tool, like this tool right here, and snip that off. It wants to come off. It's just hanging on by a tiny little bit. I like to just go in with my fingernail and get it. All right, so there's our leaf. Pretty cool. And now let's turn it into an earring. Okay, so for this, you're going to open and close a jump ring to connect this, and you're going to open and close a jump ring to connect this one up there. So let's do the bottom one first. I actually already have an open jump ring, so that's why I'll do that first, but I'll show you how to open it. So I hook that onto my bead dangle, and now hook it onto my resin piece that I just made. Feed it through and close the jump ring. I'll show you, I'm closing it, but I'll show you how to open it. And now that's attached. So here's how the jump ring comes in the package. It has a break at the top, right there. So I'm situating my pliers. I have 2 sets of pliers on either side of that break. And then I bring one plier toward me and one away from me. And that's how I open it. So while it's open, you thread on anything that you're connecting. In this case, it was the resin and the earring top. And then I close it in the opposite motion that I did to open it. And that simply, we've assembled an earring. Yay, I love it. Very cute. Okay, we are going to move pretty quickly here because the next one that I have to show you is a little fancy. But I want to show that to you next. And we do have a template for this. So this is the earring that we're going to make. We have a template that will be available in the chat. And it is something that you print out and it looks like this. And so you'll see these look suspiciously familiar to each other. So you can do this with any printed shape, or you don't need a printed shape. You can just kind of free form a shape. All right, so leaving my template here. Next, I'm going to grab another product. This is a resin. This is a polyester tape that's used for resin. Also sold in the same section at Michael's. So I'm going to cut myself a little piece of it. And then I want to put this sticky side up over top of my template. And what I can actually do, I'm going to fold down one corner just to kind of stick it there. All right, so we have the template. You can also stick this down with a little bit of Scotch tape. You want it to be flat. So this is a little more of an advanced technique that I'm going to show you. This is, I call it free form creating with UV resin. And that's how you don't need a mold. So we don't have a mold that had this Monstera leaf shape. So we are making our own just in a free form manner. All right, so let me bring back my greens that I mixed before. But the first step I'm going to do is go in with just clear. So straight from the bottle, I'm going to go onto my shape and just start laying down a first thin layer, following the pattern of the leaf. And I'm going to come back in and refine this. Actually, I'm just going to stop there. And now with my stick, I'm going to drag the resin to where I want it to go. And you're just looking to get a really thin layer. Using a template like this comes in handy when you are making earrings because you need to make two of the same, generally, if that's your style. So I'm just pulling it and dragging it, kind of painting with it. And this is just the first layer. We're going to do several layers on this guy. Okay, that's starting to look like a leaf shape, huh? It's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect at this point. Okay, actually, I'm going to move these out again because we're going to be curing this in layers. So this first layer, let me bring the light in, and I'm going to cure that for 1 minute. Thank you guys for joining us. Is anyone crafting along? I see a couple people crafting. I hope that you will try this out. It may look intimidating at first, but once you get in there and start playing with it, oh my gosh, you're going to be addicted. Watch out. Okay, so while that's going, let me show you. I'll show you some other leaf pieces that we made. This is another molded piece, but here you can see how many different colors we dropped into there to get this autumn leaf look. And then it pops right out of the mold. Similarly, you can make hoop earrings that pop out of a mold. So here is a hoop earring. And then you attach this little metal piece. The metal piece comes, when you buy the mold, the metal piece comes inside. So I just want to show you some other cool things you can make with molds. All right, so that cured, our first layer cured. I am gonna get some tape and tape these edges down. You can use Scotch tape, but I just want to make sure it doesn't continue to flip up like that. Thank you, Ken. Okay, so the link for this template is in the chat. And when you click on it, it should download to your computer. All right, so now that we have the first layer of clear on there, we're going to go in with some color now. I'm going to bring in my example here, so you can see that at the same time. And here I'm just going to use my stick, use this side. This is like kind of the wedge end. And drop by drop, I'm just going to start building this up. And I do want to alternate between the dark and the light, because you want to get that color variation. That to me is what makes it look more realistic, and it just makes it look cooler. And then, you know, of course, when you're at home, you can take your time and just move this resin exactly where you want it to go. And keep in mind, you'll be doing this in layers. So keeping it pretty thin. I got a little too globby up here. Let me move some of that down here. I wanted to show you guys this technique. Well, it works beautifully with beads, which you'll see in a few steps, but also because I just want to show you the versatility, how many different shapes that you can make. You don't need to have a mold for every single shape that you can imagine. Okay, that's a good second layer. Let me move my resins over. And I'm going to cure this layer. And so basically, I'm going to keep repeating these steps until I build up. Here's our example. You can see it from the side about how thick it is. This is about 4 layers on there. So let's let this layer go. And then I think I'll do one more layer just because I want to try to move this along and get to our last project. Was everyone able to get the template from the chat? I hope so. All right, so that went for 1 minute. And another thin layer. And I'm kind of concentrating this area, this layer in areas that I see are thinner than the others. So I've got some thin areas along the edges I'm just kind of filling into. You do want to pay attention to the edges because it can get very thin. Okay. All right. Now, if I was doing this at home and I had all the time in the world, I would definitely take my time. I would probably add another layer to this, but we're gonna go for it. All right. So while that is curing, I'm gonna get my beads set up. So here's our example. We're gonna add some beads to the front of that. So I have just a bag of leftover seed beads from other projects. And I'm gonna pour them into a little dish. And as that's curing, I can get started. So here I have another head pin. Let me just kind of straighten it out. Same thing that we used in the last step. Only this time I am going to string a lot of seed beads onto it. And I'm not trying to go in any particular pattern. I'm just choosing colors that I like. So I like some of these greens and yellows. And notice that I'm not picking up every, oops, I should move that into the frame. I'm not picking up every single bead with my fingers. I'm just using the head pin to string these on. It's much easier this way. If you tried to pick up with, these beads are so small. If you tried to pick them up with your fingers, you'd be here all day. So, and then I can just kind of pick through it. Here's a gold one that I want. So you can see what I'm building there. Put a white one here. No, I don't want that color. I want a gold. And this is where having patience really helps. Part of the reason why I like UV resin so much is because I have zero patience when it comes to crafting. So I like things that are instant, quick and easy. Pretty, huh? This is a nice little color combo. Let's see here. All right, so I want to string as many beads for how long my piece is. So I think I need just a few more beads on there. Check it again. All right, I'm getting there. Oh, I'm sorry if my hand's blocking all the action here. I'm trying to do this and also have it be something that you can see. All right. So here's my little string of beads. And just so you know, you don't necessarily need a head pin for this. You can string this on string, on wire, on anything, because there's, you know, more than one way to skin a cat. This is the way that we're doing it today. All right, so this is going to go here. And I'm going to give you one guess as to how we're going to stick this down. It's with resin. So let's add more. So going in with clear resin right on the top of this leaf. A little bit down the middle. And let's just set this into place. Now I do want to make sure that it is making contact and that all the beads are snugged up. We don't want any spaces. All right, that's looking good. All right, I'm not going to touch it. Oh, and then I touch it. Okay, let's lock that down. So when I put this light on it, it will start grabbing within 5 seconds or so. And even now it's been on, what, 10, 15 seconds, and it's already hardened to the point where I can't manipulate this anymore. But what in that few second window that I could manipulate it, I was kind of pushing down with the stick. And let's let that go. All right, so then we'll have our beads on here. The construction that I'm making is a little different than this construction. You can see this construction, we used a string. So we strung the beads on a string and then we just laid that string into some resin and then pulled the string out once it was hardened. We didn't need that string anymore. So that's how we got this look. But what I'm showing you is a way for you to get the little loop at the top all in one step. Okay, see this loop we had to add to the back of it. But here we're going to try all in one step. I'm actually going to let this go for 1 more minute because I just want to make sure that we're cured. All right, maybe not quite a minute. All right, let's see what we have here. Take our tape off of the template. And now remember that my piece, you can already see like how transparent it is. This really needs a little more love, a little more layers, but you can see how easy it is to peel off the back. And even at this point, I could add more layers to it. And then to make the edges just perfect, I can go in and snip off any areas where I just don't like the way it looks, like right here. And that's how you can kind of perfect the edges. But really, this does need a couple more layers on it. You can see how easily that comes together. Now, what do we do with that top? Well, it's the exact same steps that we took to make this bead dangle. So to do that, I'm going to grab this with my round nose pliers. Let me move this template. Grab this with my round nose pliers and I want to bend it to 90 degrees. And then trim it to about 3/8 of an inch. And then grab it with my pliers and roll back. And when my wrist doesn't roll anymore, I have to reset the pliers and keep rolling, keep rolling. And there we have a loop. And so that loop is what you use to attach it to an earring. Okay, so I rushed through that one, but I wanted you guys to see, here's what it'll look like once you have all the layers on it. Just a little thicker. Okay, last project, and I wanted to get to this one because this is now a third way for you to use UV resin. The first way we used it was in a mold when we made this piece. The second way we made it is this free form where we're just using a template to create a shape. The third way is with bezels. This is a metal bezel. And let's see, this is what those bezels look like when you see them in the stores. This one comes in a package of 4 rectangles. Let me take one of these rectangles. You can see it is clear. It's an open shape. And we are going to fill it with beads. And this is a great example of how you can use UV resin to kind of cheat with beading. So if you were to weave these beads on there with string or thread, this would take you forever. And like I said, I have no patience. So we've got to get some instant gratification here. And so I'm going to show you how to do this. When you work with any bezel, you need the tape, because you need to be able to pour resin into here and not have it go all over your whole desk. All right, so piece of tape. I'm going to put the tape sticky side up and then put my bezel on it. And I'm pushing my bezel and kind of working. I just want to make sure that that tape is really stuck to the back. And then I want to go straight from the bottle with a first layer. And then go in with the stick and just push that layer into all the corners. And so these steps here on prepping a bezel, these are the same steps that you would take regardless of what you're going to put in this bezel. You may be putting dried flowers in here, or glitter, or a picture. These are the first steps. And now I want you to see, I'm going to pick this up. I do have one bubble. Oh, maybe 2 bubbles. Can you see those? Let me show you how to get rid of them. So the easiest way is just to pop it. So if you can pop it, pop it. But sometimes they're stubborn like this one. If I can't pop it, oh, and of course it popped on that very last try. If I can't pop it, I can go in and try to like scoop it out, scooch it to the edge. Here, I just scooped that out. And so this is my first layer. And I want to cure that first layer. So as I said, these steps that you're taking are for any bezel project. And I'm going to show you some other bezel projects while that goes. Here's a little strawberry pin that we made out of a bezel. And we turned it into a pin by adding a pin finding on the back. And we just adhere that with more UV resin. You don't need to buy a different adhesive. But on the front of this little strawberry, we used dried flowers that we cut up, dried greenery here that we cut up, and a red background. Let's see if I have any other bezel projects to show you. Okay. Here's another bezel project. This is from an ocean class that we did. Oh, that has a letter O on the front of it. But here we added sand. This is real sand, real seashells, created more of like an ocean look. We have a whole class dedicated to this if you are interested in knowing how to do these type of ocean techniques. The butterfly project, I'm not sure. Okay. So there's that one. All right, so this is gone for a minute. This bezel is prepped and ready to use. If I wanted to put dried flowers in there, if I wanted to put little like rhinestones or polymer clay slices, I would just lay them in there now. But instead of that, we are going to be laying in some beads. So just like before, I need to string those beads onto something. In the last step, we did it onto a head pin. But in this step, I want to show you stringing it onto wire, how that works. So I have literally any kind of wire. This happens to be what we call tiger tail, which is nylon coated wire. but it can be any, it can be copper wire, it can be thread, it can be dental floss, just something for you to be able to string beads onto. And just like before, I'm going to string beads, and you can do this in advance. Actually, I'm going to string some of these larger beads. So I want to show you what that looks like. So I have in this sort of leftover beads, I've got some crystals, I've got some turquoise. Let's just string everything on here so you can see. Whoops. So here's what I'm getting. And again, using the wire to pick up the beads instead of using your finger. The smaller the bead, the better an option that is. All right, and so I want to string about enough beads, oops, for one row. So if I hold this on here, I have a little more than a row. So let me take off this one. And I'm just using my thumbs to hold it together. Still a little much. Let's take off this guy. And you know what? I took off that big bead. Let's add one small bead. You might have to do that if you're working with different size beads. It's a great way to use up leftover beads too. So putting them together, and I'm trying to find a combination that works that's exactly this width. And this is. All right. Go in with our favorite product, more resin. Little thin bead of it. Making sure that goes all the way to the edge. And we use our thumbs to center and place those directly into the resin. And I'm going to take this wire out. That's why I said you can use any wire. It is just there to help us center our beads. Oh, and one bead stuck to my finger. That's okay. Okay. All right. And so that's how you lay down a row of beads. And you just want to keep going, fill up all the rows. In this one, we used all seed beads. I kind of like the look of this where it's a lot of different beads, row by row by row, place them all on there. And then once you're done, once you're all the way to the top, then you cure them in place. So I'm not going to do all of them for you today, but I think you get the idea. You string on wire or string or thread or anything. You lay them in place and pull the thread out. You can cure it and then pull the thread out, but sometimes that can kind of cure the thread down. And so it's easier if you pull it out. All right. Turn that off. Okay, and so in that way, you can see how you can build up layers, and it looks like you have a finely woven piece, but actually they're not woven, they are just laid down in resin. All right, that's the third project for you. I did want to show you one other project. We're not going to do the whole thing, but just a little bit of show and tell. One more bead project that I have lost. Okay. Well, I can't seem to find that one. Oh, if it was a snake. Okay, so I wanted to show you another way of using beads. So this bar, this rectangle, just came out of a mold. And we used some wire strung some beads in the wire, and then just wrap the wire around. And see how we just use a little dot of UV resin to stick that wire. That makes sure we don't have any like scratchy wire ends on there, but yet another way to use beads with the UV resin. Okay, before we wrap it up here, I wanted to give a chance for anyone to ask any questions. If you have any questions on this craft, on UV resin in general, and how to do these specific projects. If we don't have any questions in the chat, I will leave you with this, which is that we love to see what you make. If you decide to try it out, post your creations with the hashtag UV Resin Craft. So we do check that on Facebook and on Instagram. You can connect with us on those platforms here at bluemoonstudio.co. And then you can connect with me personally at Stephanie Menor Creates on Instagram. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much. As we're wrapping it up here, I'll bring all of my pieces in here that we made. Thank you so much for joining us. We do classes once a month, but we have a special class this month. We have 2 classes this month, and it's going to be on a Saturday, which is helpful for people that work during the week. So on Saturday, July 23rd, Michael's is doing a full day of jewelry making classes. And so we have some very special fun projects to bring to you on that day, Saturday the 23rd. Check out michaels.com to sign up, just like you signed up today. It's a free class. We would love to see you to join us. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I hope you go try it out. Thank you.